We didn't speak when we wanted to. We were more or less following instructions, and we learned how to not be ourselves in order to protect ourselves. And that crack in the cement grew larger and larger over time, and we've never gone back to actually repairing. So the first thing to do is recognize that that's who we've become over time, and be willing to forgive ourselves, accept ourselves, have compassion with ourselves for having become that. It's not like we're bad people. That's just the natural state of affairs, is that we've become afraid to speak our truest voice, or we become incapable, or in some ways, really like repulsed by speaking our true voice. And so we don't do it in settings where it's important. And sometimes we don't even do it with our family and our loved ones. Sometimes we actually stop short of saying what's important to us for fear of hurting someone, or disrupting something, or being misunderstood, or being disregarded. And what I'm inviting people to do is take incremental steps into speaking true voice. Now, this does not mean going to the top of the mountain and screaming how much you hate your mother-in-law. That isn't really true voice. The essence of true voice is to move that needle forward, to move the conversation forward. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that, really, is by paying attention to that special ingredient, to the special sauce of the whole thing, and that is listening. It turns out that the most important feature in communication isn't what we say or how we say it, or what we look like when we're saying it. The most important feature of communication is definitely listening. And not just listening to the other person, but what are the circumstances, what is being called for to move that needle forward. Again, what you said is really important, this idea that it becomes a pattern, that we then take on a new identity, but the reverse is also true. Once we start speaking truer to who we really are, that becomes pretty contagious and infectious as well. There's a massive relief in finally speaking your truest voice. And that becomes something that opens the space for the people in your world to also find their true voice. Like tuning forks, when we're together with someone who's speaking a true voice, we are left open the possibility and the invitation to speak our true voice in front of that person as well. And a new level of communication becomes available, which creates the connection and ultimately the essential healing that can take place between human beings.
Yeah, love it. So let's bring this full circle, Fred. Mental health. How do we end up with staying mentally healthy with all of this information that we've already talked about as far as communication and connection?
Yeah, so that's the essence of staying mentally healthy, is human connection. And one of the things you can get is that being anxious or being depressed or being afraid or being confused or being scared or being scattered or being aimless or being tired, or all the things that we think have something to do with mental illness are really just functions of the human condition. These are things that our body does for us, not to us. These are things that, even if they're highly uncomfortable, do not necessarily represent anything called mental illness. So in other words, being uncomfortable is not a sign of being mentally unhealthy. It's okay to be highly uncomfortable. If you haven't noticed, the world is an extraordinarily challenging place right now, and it isn't getting less challenging. Being confused in these days and not knowing which direction to go has to be considered normal. So what is the matter of being mentally healthy? It's a matter of stepping back a ways and realizing that all of this is essential humanity. That all the experiences that you're having, including the ones that you're pretty sure are bad or wrong or ill or diseased or afflicted or affected or negative or sick or ill or whatever, they might not be ill at all. You see, mental illness is a very variable definition. I've been around the world and checked out mental illness in various corners of the planet, and it's entirely different in some areas than it is in others. This, of course, is not true with every medical condition.